Hello and welcome to That's So Craven. Well, that threw me.
What
Um,
is
uh,
that?
your one-stop shop for all things Fulham and all things. I don't really even know how to characterize the conversation we're about to have and exactly what this is going to be. But if you've come here for some detailed football analysis, it may not be the place. We're going to cover off on the match that was at Stamford Bridge yesterday, Chelsea versus Fulham. Something I was certainly looking forward to, and I came away mightily depressed and very, very frustrated. But without getting into it in too much detail, we've got a couple of special people along today to help me through this hour or so. So first of all, spanning the planet Earth to the degree of about 14 hours of time zones and time differences. Welcome, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning, and Elton, thank you for calling me a special person because after last night's match, I downed a bottle of whiskey and I completed certification. So I am now a licensed therapist. So for
Yeah.
anyone on the line, I'm here to help. And if you have any concerns about talking about yesterday, I have the skills apparently to help you.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it's very early in the morning there. It's pretty late here in Australia. Not for me so much, but certainly on the east coast of Australia, where we have my youngest and finest, Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Oh, you were so close to saying your finest son. That would have been excellent. That would have helped me through this difficult time. Hey, I'm going fine. I mean, no one's actually going good today. It's a very annoying day. I was actually okay. So I was sitting with my housemate. She doesn't care about football at all. She told me that she was a Chelsea fan at the start of the game, which annoyed me. And I was telling her, I was like, football. A lot of time people will try to tell you it's about tactics. I truly believe it's about narratives and story. And the story today is injustice. That is a verbatim quote that I said. And for that, we will continue on with the rest of the show. And let's just lean into whinging, because why not? Let's just give the people what they want. Nobody really wants the breakdown. We just want to whinge, and whinge we shall.
Absolutely. And let's just jump straight into this. I'm gonna. I'm not going to stick to any real serious agenda, as if I ever do. But this time I make no apology. But I'm going to read you. I've been fuming and being semi-suicidal for the last kind of 24 hours, which is kind of a lot for a grown man. But let me, before I fly off, let me read you a quote which I heard the other day, and I thought it was rather apt. And it's an adage that's attributed to a guy called Hanlon. It's called Hanlon's razor for those who haven't heard it before. And it goes something like, never attribute to malice that which could be adequately explained by stupidity or incompetence.
Ooh.
And I thought, well, what's that?
Isn't that from Cocktail?
It's actually, I think he made that comment somehow in response to when the book about Murphy's Law came out, which I believe is the origin of it. But I guess where I'm going on this is that we've been pretty dark on what we believe to be big club bias, and certainly we've been on the end of some pretty harsh and disappointing refereeing or officiating decisions, can I say, because I think it goes way beyond the refereeing. But maybe rather than it being a bias, maybe it's just the fact that they're really shit. It could just be that.
Yeah. I mean,
but let's just, Sammy, let me just pause for a moment. I'll let that one sink in and let that wash over you. Let's do some justice to at least the first half of this game, because I think there's a lot to be proud of, and we shouldn't overlook that entirely. Because I thought, the £1 billion Chelsea squad versus the Fulham squad that can't do a deal, can't buy a player. I think the only confirmation so far, other than our replacement goalkeeper, the only confirmation so far in terms of transfer business is Andreas Pereira leaving the building, which we'll cover a little later in the podcast. And whilst there have been some encouraging noises about players coming in at the time of going live, nothing is confirmed. And I know that's pretty business as usual for Fulham Football Club of late, but this is always going to be a very, very difficult challenge for us at Stamford Bridge, away against a hugely talented squad with so much depth. And I thought that in the first half, apart from a couple of periods where right at the very end of the first half, where we possibly switched off for perhaps the only time, I thought it was a very, very outstanding showing from Fulham. We looked really, really good. We looked like we were very much all over them in the first half, and there was some absolutely scintillating play. I would almost say led by Josh King in terms of attacking moves.
I would.
But to be fair to all the players on the ground, I didn't think anyone had a bad first half. I thought it was really, really exciting. Let's just do it some justice, because I think it would be unfair to not give the players their flowers and give them their due for what was an exceptional first half. Mike, can I ask you any surprises in the lineup, and how did you feel we started off in that first 10-15 minutes or so?
Yeah, I'm not sure about everybody else, but I was a little surprised to see the five at the back again, but not totally surprised based on Andreas potentially out the door. It was one of those things where we were fairly light in midfield. I think the one thing that surprised me a little bit, and has continued to surprise me, is this idea that Tete is playing as a right center back and that we aren't leveraging Cuenca in the middle the same way. And maybe that's just, having too many left-footed center backs as opposed to right-footed center backs that we trust. Just thought it was really interesting, especially since Castagna seemed so ineffective when he moved to kind of the wing-back role against United. So that was the biggest surprise to me of anything. I think despite scoring a goal in the Carabao for Raul, I think Muniz starting was justified. Overall, I guess it was a pretty predictable lineup.
Yeah. Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't crazy enthused to see Castagna like playing so high, but I thought he did well considering, and I thought positionally he was effective, and I can kind of see what Silva was going for. I would have preferred to see somebody with a little bit more bite playing up higher on the right, but yeah, I kind of get what was happening. I mean, for me, really, I'm just happy Josh King's getting his minutes, and the first half was just all that boy. I'm just gonna go straight into whinging. I don't care. It's such like a Greek tragedy, because it would have been such a beautiful moment for him to like nutmeg Tosin and to score his first Fulham goal at Chelsea. It would have been beautiful, and it was poetry, and it was there, and it just got taken away from us. And I'm a petty man, and I could lean in, and I could do the due diligence and say the boys did well, but I want to give the boys their credit by complaining for the next 50 or so minutes.
I can already feel how this is going to go. I'm not committed to this at all, but I'm actually.
You've been very diplomatic. You've been very diplomatic, but I'm really going
to try.
Now, Elton, you've been the most diplomatic person I have seen talk about that game at all, and you use such a great. Well, yeah. I mean, you use such a great quote from Hanlon's Razor. I'm going to give you one from the movie Snatch, which is never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. And that's what we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to Daz's question, which we haven't touched on, but we're going to cover.
That was about what I was
One of
going to
the
ask.
questions.
Yep.
Yeah, that was one of the questions in the pod. So let's talk about it now because I think it's appropriate. And I think he to paraphrase you, Dazza, he asked the questions of what do we think about the five at the back? Is it working or is it really not working? As to why I think we're still dabbling with that, I'm not sure that it's an overly defensive move right now. I think it's all about Robinson actually, and the fact that he's not ready. He obviously did come on yesterday. He didn't look great, but that's to be expected. He's had a significant piece of surgery, and he's. I mean, he had a good foot race last week to track back, and I can't remember who he chased down, but he looked quick
And
enough.
Wemo.
But he just looks a little, yeah, he just looks a bit off. His passing isn't really sharp. And it's not surprising that he's not starting at the moment. And I think that's prudent and wise of us to actually manage that. And I think, we actually do have some interesting options for defenders at the moment. We've got Castagna who could play at left back. We've got Cuenca. We've got Sessegnon, who's actually been doing better further up the pitch. But I once again, I thought he actually performed really, really well yesterday, and he did a number of really, really important things defensively, and his courage and his commitment was immense. That boy is always playing for the badge, and on the big derbies like yesterday, you're always going to get it from Sessegnon, which is why he is so fondly loved by all the fans. But look, well, I was a little critical and a little bit. I wasn't that happy to see Castagna in that role last week against Man United, but the other thing that I'm also conscious of is that watching it through the viewport of a TV screen, it's sometimes difficult to really understand exactly what's going on because you can't see a lot of what's off the ball. The camera's obviously following the ball around, and modern day football is an awful lot more than what we do when we're in possession, what we do when we're out of possession. It's broken down into such much finer detail than that. And Jack and I, who were sitting on the sofa watching the game together, as we generally do, this time with two kids under 5 who wanted to stay up for the early game as well. That was tricky. Love my grandchildren, but it wasn't great. Love you, Jack. But it was interesting to see what Castagna was doing whilst he was sort of the wide right player and Kenny the third man at the back. There were many times when Castagna was actually cutting inside and Kenny was on, which I think everyone prefers to see that from Kenny Tete, and we did see that. So there was quite a lot going on there yesterday. It was definitely not a straight up 5 at the back. So look, I think Silva, he's doing pretty well with what he's got. He's got some challenges. He's got a little injury, or certainly a niggle with Harry Wilson. We've got a couple of players that we're keen to bring in. We've got certainly some movement at the station around the number 10 position. Who would have thought prior to summer that Josh King would be getting that shirt in a starting position every time over and above ESR and Andres Pereira, whether or not he was leaving the club, didn't look like he was going to get a game, frankly. So, there's quite a lot going on, but I think in the scheme of all of that, I think, our defense did pretty well. And the guy screening the defense against a couple of pretty class midfielders at Chelsea and Caicedo, and who else?
Enzo.
Enzo. In midfield. That's pretty tasty stuff. And I think we did really well.
Elton, I gotta put on my conspiracy hat for a second. So give me 1 second. I gotta put this on for a second because we saw Marco do this last year. And I almost lost. But essentially, we saw Marco do this last year, where he started playing the 5 at the back right before the Christmas break, and part of the reason we were doing that was the number of injuries and for Marco to highlight how light our squad was in certain positions. And I think there may be a piece of that here again. We'll get onto this more when we get questions later. But when you look at the center midfield right now, the options are pretty light, especially if we're playing King in the 10 as opposed to an 8. We really have Lukic and Berger. We have Kearney and maybe Reed off the bench. And who else are you playing down the mid? We don't really have a ton of options. And so I think part of this is also out of necessity a little bit as well, that we don't have that center mid cover to play the systems that Marco necessarily wants to play, especially with Pereira going out.
Yeah. And again, look, we're gonna touch on this before we finish up today in terms of transfer business. But I'm really hoping for a blinder here. I'm hoping that the club somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat, because there's been little to no rumors about any number 8s that we might be signing. And it generally at this point, whilst there may be no deal confirmed, you'd think there'd be a rumor. I mean, fair play to them if they've kept something quiet and they're about to announce some superstar coming in the next 24 hours. Brilliant commercial business. I say that with tongue in cheek because it should have happened about 8 weeks ago. But
I hate when they do this.
I mean, I'll accept it begrudgingly if it does happen by 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Local time tomorrow. But let's carry on. I thought the first probably interesting and significant moment in the game was when Liam Delap pulled up with an injury, because he had a couple of moments where he looked pretty damn dangerous, quite frankly. He had a shot on goal blocked by Berger, which could have gone damn anywhere. It was point blank range, and he's got a set of thighs on him, and he absolutely laced it. So I thought that was a very, very significant moment in the game, very, very early on. I can't even remember exactly where that happened, but I'm going to say
pretty early,
probably inside the first 10 minutes, if I remember correctly.
I do remember enjoying that.
Yeah, I rate the guy. I think he's really exciting. I mean, I'm amazed in a way that he's made the jump from Ipswich to Chelsea, and I know he wasn't expected to be their starting striker, but he's found himself there, and I don't doubt he's going to do well if he's given an opportunity. He's a quality player, quality young player.
Oh yeah, he's elite.
I will say, Elton, one of the funniest parts of this entire thing, and obviously we're going to focus more on Fulham, but Chelsea apparently tried to stop the loan move for Nico Jackson going to Bayern Munich, and Jackson said no.
That's so
which
funny.
I find very funny there. Also, funny. How Bayern are paying $15 million to loan a player is absurd to me, but that's beyond the point.
It's just bloody Chelsea logic.
Okay, look. Let's talk about it. I've resisted this for long enough. Let's talk about what happened. Let me set it up. Josh King is having an absolute outstanding game. He's been part of maybe 2 or 3 really exciting movements forward. He's had a couple of shots. I think he had a shot. Was it on target? But certainly he had a shot.
Possibly, he was around there. Yeah, got in the box.
Yeah, he certainly got the box. He was looking dangerous. He was making really, really good runs, which is something we've seen from him all season so far, all 3 games. But we've seen it, and it's tasty and very, very exciting. The ball comes out of defence. I think actually Josh King actually gets the ball and knocks it forward to Muniz, who responds very, very quickly, tries to do a turn. Chalabar comes in behind him. Looks like he's going to chop him up from behind, quite frankly. And obviously, Muniz, in doing the turn, actually ends up stepping on Chalabar's foot. I wouldn't even say accidental. Chalabar was just in the way. That can't be a problem. Yeah. The ball spills out. Berger's onto it very quickly. Plays Josh King in from inside our half. Josh King goes on a run, and Tosin is chasing him down. And Tosin is many things, but he's a pretty talented one-on-one defender. And so, as you actually mentioned it before, Sam, this was a moment of poetry for Josh King to stop, cut inside, to pretty much put Tosin on his ass, and put the ball into to beat the keeper and put the ball back of the goal for what everyone believed in the stand to be this young, promising 18-year-old's very first goal, and a great moment for him, for the team, and justice for the first 22 minutes of the game. We thoroughly deserved to go up a goal at that point, in my view. I don't think that's a biased view at all. Obviously the things carry on, and we learn, certainly we learn watching TV, that VAR have a look at this, and of course VAR takes some time going over it, and I think you know what's going to happen when VAR takes some time going over things. And I don't even need to go over this. It can't be a person in football who isn't familiar with this story.
Yeah.
But the goal is chalked off for what is claimed to be Mooney's excessively rough play in stamping on Chalabar's foot, and the goal is chalked off. Sam, you have a finger up. Go ahead.
Very patiently. Right. I am not a journalist. I am a person with a microphone. I think a lot of the times we search for reason in these kind of scenarios. I think every now and then Skibby and Dave and Jack and Mark, they can give me very good synonymous reasons as to why these things occur and the logic behind it happening. It's bullshit. Because at the end of the day, I don't want reason for this. I'm sure people can and people in the comments can tell me all the reasons why, but it's borderline rude. It kills the game. I'm very, very frustrated by this entire thing because it actually took something very, very special away from us. And then it also doubled down a little bit later on, which we will get into. But it's just a natural piece of movement. And if we're starting to police that, then the game's gone to shit. And to be honest, the thing that irks me more than anything about it is, again, with this top six bias, any excuse to kind of actually create that discourse seems to be entertained. But it's ridiculous. It's stupid, and I just feel really sorry for Josh King. I feel really, really sorry for him because he doesn't deserve that. He did everything right. And I don't think Muniz did really anything wrong aside from just doing what he was supposed to do. And then it was recorrected in hindsight. Not cool. Don't like it. Mike, say things.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I think I've thought a lot about this. This is going to live rent-free in my head for a long time. There are kind of two versions of this that I'm seeing. One kind of works, but kind of doesn't, where people, when we were watching yesterday, we're talking about in basketball, if somebody puts their foot underneath a player's foot in the NBA, for example, it's actually a foul on the player who puts their foot under. I realize it's a sport, but the reason they have that is a safety issue, where it's a landing zone, essentially. And candidly, Chalobah could have hurt Muniz there. And what would have happened from there? So I think that's part one. I think the part, though, that will live rent-free in my head for a very, very long period is the justification of it being a careless challenge. Muniz has the ball. I don't understand what is he challenging? He gets the ball, wins it cleanly, makes an actual move. It's a skill move. How is that a challenge in any way? And I think that's the thing that bothers me the most is he has the ball. He's shielding someone. He's doing a turn. It's a skill. The idea of it's a challenge blows my mind. And that was the first thing that I kept losing it to.
Like also as well, like, so I'm pretty neutral when it comes to things like VAR, but the thing that really was highlighted to me in this game is if you start reducing everything down to who is the best argument, you essentially kill ethics, for lack of a better word, because then it comes down to sophistry and who's got the best kind of narrative, who can spin the best story. And then when you start getting into that, you can justify anything if you have a good enough argument. I'm not privy to the VAR conversations, but if they're justifying things like that, it almost just kind of seems like they're just looking to overturn decisions or to create opportunities that don't exist. That to me is stressful, scary. It's borderline fascism, and I do not like it.
Everybody will be happy to know Michael Salisbury, who is doing the VAR, is actually being pulled off VAR duty today for the Liverpool Aston Villa.
Really?
Because of gross incompetence. So it doesn't give anyone a goal back. It doesn't change the result of the game. But it's so interesting to see the discourse of everyone agreeing uniformly, except for a couple entitled, delusional Chelsea supporters, that there is no way that should have been ruled out. There is no way that VAR should have overturned that. And also, again, VAR is supposed to be in the game for clear and obvious errors. The only clear and obvious error that was made was by the people sitting in the VAR.
Yeah. Daddy, we're kind of like approaching like a philosophical conversation here, and I want to get your 2 cents on this. Like, like how bad does it have to get before we actually start questioning like the ethical kind of like conversations that VAR is actually having?
Well, I think there's so many different angles and aspects to this, and I'm interested in all of them. And, you know, I look at the PGMOL group, and for those who aren't aware, that's the independent body that looks after professional game match officiating. And it's actually been hived out in a very kind of, I don't know what the right word of it for it is, but it sits out there as a separate limited company, so that it has the sense of being independent, but it's not independent. It's completely under the influence of the FA, or the Premier League. I beg your pardon. It's actually guided by the Premier League. It's funded by the Premier League, and you can't tell me the Premier League don't have a huge sway in terms of how they interpret the rules of the game. I'm just not buying it. Okay. So then you've got, Howard Webb is at the top, but they obviously have a board and they have policies, and it's beyond, it's not conceivable to me that they don't sit around and discuss not only before the season, but as the season progresses, the kind of policy level stuff of how we're going to do this, how to what level of fidelity we're actually going to go in and look back, how far we're going to go back and look back at incidents. We all know what the scope and concept of VAR is meant to be, for clear and obvious error, highlighting and overturning. But unless Salisbury is some sort of, he's kind of by chopping him, as the PGMOL have now announced, it kind of sounds like he's a rogue guy, and they're rooting out some terrible one single person they found, and now the problem solved by actually getting rid of him. I don't believe that's the case at all. This is an endemic problem. It's over officiating. It's over meddling. You decide whether there's a top six bias, but if doing their job and their policy is to go through and thoroughly make sure that all the lead up play prior to a goal is legit, then how come the incident unfolded where Chelsea got a penalty later on, and 2 incidents which should have been actually taken seriously by VAR prior to the Sessegnon handball are overlooked as being inconsequential? It doesn't stack up. It does not stack up. And I don't know. I'm prepared, just for fun. I'm prepared to put the top 6 bias thing aside and pretend that it doesn't exist. It still bothers me deeply that we've got too many refs who have egos and like to actually have an effect on the game. Kavanaugh is a classic example of this. I wonder if Jones is just a little bit incompetent, or because he had every opportunity. He missed the foul. He did not actually call that Mooney's step on Chalobah a foul. He let it go. He was close. He had a good view of it. He let it go. Then VAR goes back and actually decides that he should view the screen. He had plenty of time. It wasn't in the thick of the moment, in the heat of the moment. He had a lot of time. I believe he viewed the replay of on the screen at the side of the pitch 6 times. The same issue 6 times. He had plenty of time to think about it and actually grow a pair of balls and overrule VAR and go, nope, I'm happy with my decision. But he didn't. And I think
they never overrule, do they?
Well, the problem is it's kind of a convoluted and circular thing that because VAR is there, the on-field referee doesn't have to make difficult decisions. So they almost never call a penalty because VAR is going to check. So why look like an idiot, right?
Also,
but
it just kind of
does actually see something, they never overrule it. Right.
But like in the exact same way that it's just groupthink bias, because at the end of the day, one person can have an opinion, one person can have an idea, and then if they present that to a group, that gets diluted. Then all of a sudden, people start like sharing ideas, and then it's an agreed upon idea. It's a really, really flawed system because people are flawed. If us 3 come in, I mean, we do this every week, but us 3 come with 3 separate opinions, and then the longer we talk, we kind of streamline into one clearer opinion. And then we present that to our lovely audience. We love you so much. Join the Discord. But that's actually, like, it shouldn't be that way. If you are a singular referee, it should just be your singular decision. This isn't necessarily rocket science. It's basic psychology. It's if you want stringent decisions, you have to stick to the firmness of them, and you can't be swayed by other people. But unfortunately, everyone's swayed by other people, because if you get like enough opinions shouting your way, you just question your own. It's stupid. It's really, really dumb.
Mike, what's the solution, Mike? If you had the power to actually
Wally referee,
changes, what would you do? What's the solution?
It's tough because I keep hearing PGMOL say that the referees have the ability to overrule VAR and make that decision, but the one time they do it and everybody doesn't see it the same way, they're going to face, a firing squad over it. I think part of it sounds ridiculous, but we do need more transparency into how these officials are actually trained. I want to hear them talking live and hold people accountable for this. I mean, at the end of the day, look, technology is going to be a part of the game. It just is at this point. It's already here. And there are some really good things that come with that. At the same time, and Elton, I think you said this before, it's over officiating. At the end of the day, it needs to be applied consistently and within the spirit of the game. And right now, it feels like there are a bunch of people sitting in a booth telling, the mechanical guy what to do, and there's no real way around it. And I almost wish that they would allow us to challenge it or something, but I don't know how that process would even go.
Well, look, there are plenty of analogs here. There's there's cricket, which heavily
Cricket's got a great system. I was going to ask about
that. Well, cricket has, a lot of intervention in terms of decision making, because similar to football, it's a low scoring game. There are key moments in the game, and so it's very important that you get this right. Cricket's a similar thing. There are 10 wickets that fall in innings. A batsman gets one chance And if he's out, he's gone. He's in the dressing room. A bowler can just keep bowling all day. And so if we're going to officiate on whether a batsman is out, we go to the technology. But I see a similar thing creeping into the game of cricket where, the umpires just don't make decisions, knowing that everything is going to be challenged and everything's going to be viewed by the equivalent of VAR in cricket, and you just see the umpire looking lame and shrugging his shoulders and announcing what he's friends with 17 monitors and a bit more time have decided. The only game, and correct me if I'm wrong, tell me here in the chat, following like, thanks everyone for joining. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I want to see the equivalent of rugby union refereeing coming in, where from a policy perspective, rugby union refs are so strong. They stand tall. They are so confident. They are backed by the entire system. You cheat the ref, you're off. Sin bin. He will pull you over and actually dress you down. He'll be standing about 5'7" and he'll be talking to a 6'5" giant, and everyone has great respect, and everyone knows that guy is in control of the game, and he's empowered to be. And there's no fanboy thing in rugby union that don't care who you are. I'm the referee, without being arrogant and an egotist trying to manage and overly control the game. I'm in charge. I know what the rules are. Yes, sure, subjective judgments from time to time, but the rules, everyone understands what the meanings of the rule actually is. And if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And it's football's lost, man. It's broken. It's so screwed up. The system wants the big clubs to be successful. That's how the whole thing works. And I cannot help feeling that I'm trying to be as independent and level-headed as I can here. But what is the reason, and for going back so many steps to actually check whether there is an opportunity for us to chalk a goal off here or not? It just makes no sense at all. But how can it be that the management and the board of PGMOL are not putting in place policy that says, guys, be sensible? All of the people involved in reffing and VAR sitting behind screens, they know what they're doing. They understand the rules, but they just don't seem to have the kind of the game's best interests at heart. I just fail to see it. Sorry, Sam.
Sam.
Oh, well, I was going to say, look, I think there's a couple of things that you can do. I think you can make the VAR conversations completely open, mic the referee the entire time as well, so you can actually hear those conversations, create that transparency. Jack always says they publish it like after the game. Nobody's watching it after the game. They never will. Do it in real time. You kind of have to.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. That doesn't count.
I hate that argument. But like it's I think you have to make a decision ultimately. Who's more important, the referee on the pitch or VAR? I think that needs to be really, really clear. And I actually don't really care if it is VAR or if it is the referee. These things kind of work themselves out, but that has to be sorted out, because if there's too much discourse between the two and nobody really knows who's in charge, and one sways the other, it's very, very confusing. I like the rugby union analogy. I mean, I've been saying for years that because in rugby union, the captain's the only person who's allowed to actually speak to the ref, as far as I'm aware. I would love to see something like that in football, because again, it actually kind of puts more emphasis actually on the captain, and that kind of whole thing's been a little bit diluted. You can put your tin hat on really, really far and say that VAR is a really, really perfect way to actually create any kind of justification to actually put people further ahead. And it's an easier way to actually like rig games than actually highlight a singular referee, because you can blame it on like 4 or 5 anonymous people, which we don't know because they don't exist in our peripherals. I don't care what we decide. It just has to be decided, and it has to be like effective throughout the entire game, because there's just too many pockets of inconsistency, and it's annoying for people like us. It's annoying for every single team, and it's the same story every week. And I'm sure in 3 years' time or whatever, they'll probably figure it out. But for now, it's just really annoying.
Sorry, Sam, to take it a step further. No, what I was going to say, and Elton, I might be stepping on your toes here a little bit. You talk about the consistency. I mean, how is in any way the Moonies move any different from what happens leading into the penalty? Legitimately, will we get stepped on? That's not a careless challenge? Like, how is that? João Pedro shoves Joa in the box. That's not a careless challenge. And at the end of the day, it's one of those things where there's so much opacity, for lack of better phrasing. In American football, nobody can define what a catch is. At this point, I'm genuinely questioning what is a foul.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I really think we're hurtling towards, maybe not hurtling, because I think this is pretty immovable. And I just, for those following on the live, I've just popped up a comment from one of our people listening. Joshua Rodstein says, football would require an entire culture change unless you start carding people for the minute they speak out of turn. But all of these things are connected in my head. Sam, back to your point, I think the VAR system, like it is in tennis, in cricket, in rugby, every major game has a kind of a set of checks and balances where people sit behind screens and have the ability to review things in the background. And I haven't got a problem with that at all. But for me, the moment you actually take the power away from the guy on the field, you're kind of gone. There's no point having someone on the field. We may as well have it fully AI driven, and players are mic'd up or have an earpiece in and are told what they're doing next, and on we go.
You get a little shock, like a Squid Game kind of like scenario. Yeah.
Right. But
that's actually coming to the podcast next, Sammy.
to me, I know so many people would say you're unrealistic, you're a dreamer and whatever, but the more things like this happen, which great, they've sacked Salisbury, maybe they get rid of Jones, who cares? We've lost 2 points, we've had our hearts broken, and the game of football, death by 1,000 cuts, guys. Every time something like this happens, it kind of makes me hate watching Premier League football every little bit more. I love football, so I'm always going to be a sucker for it. But geez, I borderline hate watching this stuff sometimes because it drives me mad. And the game's broken, man. It's broken. And I think we need to actually get back to a point where refs actually have incredible power and the right people are doing the job, not people like Kavanagh, who clearly has a massive ego and loves to actually get overly involved and kind of lord it over players, the power that he's got. But people who are given proper power, who are ethical and actually, like someone commented on, like Nigel Owens, very, very famous rugby union referee, is just straight up and down. He's straight as a die, calls it like it is, pulls people up, doesn't matter who they are. And it's actually brilliant to watch. I never, ever, ever watch a rugby union game thinking, geez, this game seems a bit biased. Maybe you get a bad ref, but it's never like that. And the other point that's got to come in, is the VAR conversation and all of their conversations as they go through the machinations of making a decision, and their conversations with the ref has to be live. Has to be live and audible.
Do you know what I actually want to see now? It's kind of been prompted by a Black, White, and Fred comment, which we probably will address in a sec. But I want everybody to be mic'd up, but I also think it should be mandatory that both managers should be standing right next to the referee when he's making that decision, and they should also be involved in the VAR conversation. It would be carnage to listen to. It would actually be quite entertaining.
In a cage.
Literally in a cage match. It's like, if you are going to make this decision, you are saying it to my face. Like, imagine saying that to Marco Silva's face. That would be like, I'd pay premium for that. Like,
well, if it makes everybody feel better, by the way, some breaking news. PGMOL has said that the wrong call was made, and Howard Webb contacted the club and issued a formal apology.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, we're saying sorry, but like, I don't care about sorry. Just don't.
Right,
do
exactly,
it.
exactly. And look, I say that a little tongue in cheek, but
yeah,
Elton, to your point, you said we lost 2 points. We lost all 3. Like, there was a very real possibility. And look, I can't say I'm elated with the start of the season, but when I was talking to people, I said 5 points from the first 5 games was realistic. We're still on the pace for that, most likely. But at the end of the day, we'll look back at the season, and if it's close in any direction, whether it's, to Europe or to, God forbid, a relegation battle, we're going to look at this game specifically. This is going to be the low point of the season when we look back on it and say, oh my God, had we taken a point, had we taken 3 points from Chelsea, what could have been the opportunity to kick on? Now we sit here for the next 2 weeks and have to kind of stew in it, and hopefully it's a rallying point for the boys, because at the end of the day, that's what it has to be. This can be an opportunity for us to sit and say, woe is us, or this is an opportunity to kick on and say, screw you all. Like, we're going to kick on from this, and we're going to, pound it down your throats.
Yeah.
At this point, you go.
I was going to say, so what are your thoughts on how Marco reacted in the press? I don't know if you saw the press conference. Did you guys watch his press conference?
I saw parts of it, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Marco Silva has been on the end of a number of fines. I think they're pretty hefty. They're in the order of about 30, 40, 50,000 pounds, if I understand that right, which I don't care who you are. That's a lot of money. That's a deposit on a tasty house. And as much money as you might have or you might make per week, that's a lot of money, right? And also it comes with bans, which may be a touchline ban, which is kind of annoying, but not really that bad. But it could end up being a stadium ban if the FA and PGMOL feel really embarrassed by what you happen to be highlighting. But Salisbury, he gets moved on. Does he get fined for being a fuckwit? Marco's got to bite his lip. Marco's got to bite his lip and worry about whether he actually gets a fine or whether he's going to be allowed to officiate the next game. What's the implication for a personal sorry from James? What about our points? It's terrible. I think the Premier League, and people kind of tell me I'm being a drama queen and melodramatic. I honestly think the Premier League has a brand problem, has a real brand problem here, and in the way that, however you want to characterize it, the way that our matches are officiated. Whether you want to come from the point of view of they're biased, or they're just incompetent, or they're over meddling. Take your pick. Maybe one, maybe all. But I think you can't continue to be a credible, format of football if you keep behaving like this. Sorry, Sam.
But the problem is, though, it doesn't really matter whether it's credible or not. It matters if certain teams are getting exposure, because they know that the average and casual viewer is actually viewing to see those teams. It's not supporting teams like us that have invested interest in the team that doesn't necessarily get that spotlight. They're actually facilitating for people who have spotlight. So it's not really a question of whether they are branded as just or not, because they just know that they just have to facilitate that audience. Timothy Chalamet was at the game. Timothy Chalamet is not going to Brentford versus Hull. He's coming to a Chelsea game, and that's kind of like the whole that's the whole MO. Like, honestly, I can almost talk about this more, but I'm borderline remiss to, because we will keep going around in circles. Because even in the CES challenge, it's the exact same conversation. Like, there is nothing more that I can say, pretty much, that I haven't already said again. That's the exact same situation for the CES challenge. It's just a
let's try and move on a little bit, but only as far as the next. The next diabolical decision by VAR, which results in a penalty against Fulham, and in the setup.
Before we go there, do we want to talk about us giving up another set piece goal? Or do we just need to say, hey, we need to relist the set piece coach on LinkedIn and we're good to go? Or Indeed.com.
Yeah, look, well, I mean, yes, okay, let's talk about that. Let's also talk about, and I listened to this afternoon, I listened to the Fulham FC replay, and therefore the commentary on the game. And yeah, they made a great point, because of the VAR challenge, because of Delap's injury and removal from the playing field. 8 minutes were added. Seemed like a lot, but okay, 8 minutes are added. And there's a corner on I think just before the 8th minute, and the corner's taken, and the ball goes out for another corner, and the whistle should have been blown up. Where's VAR on something like this, where the ref actually goes over the 8 minutes? Why is
significantly
VAR,
over? By the way, it's not another 5 seconds.
As Jamie on the commentary says, why doesn't VAR intervene in that point and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, the game's up. We said 8 minutes. It's not just 8 minutes and a bit. The ball's out of play. You should blow it up."
I was so annoyed at that.
Whether, again, never attribute to malice that which could adequately be explained by stupidity or incompetence, right? And is he just caught up in the game and not concentrating, Jones, and allowing yet another corner to go ahead in the 9th minute? They score in the 9th minute, a minute overtime. I mean, outrageous.
I mean, it really is a double go, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, terrible marking. We could do so much better. To your point, Mike.
But the genesis of that goal is the fact that at the end of the day, they spent so long looking at VAR on that play that they allowed so much time for Chelsea to take another one, regardless of the fact that whether it was 8 minutes or 9 minutes or whenever. It's the double hit there. It almost feels like double jeopardy. And I know that you can't control that kind of stuff, but the only reason that there's 8 minutes is because he's going back and forth with VAR for so long on something that, again, was not a foul.
No, but I mean, to be fair, if they genuinely, let's say Delap burnt a minute and they spent 7 minutes on VAR, the game didn't continue for 7 minutes, so legitimately should be played at the end of the 45. So I'm okay with that.
I don't disagree with you, but from an emotional standpoint,
it's nuts.
The air had been taken out of the game once the VAR check happened and the goal's overruled, and then of course, that is how we have to concede a goal. It's got to be a set piece, and it's got to be in the extra time added for a VAR check. And it's got to be the extra time added on top of the extra time. It
could have been the 99th minute of the game, which would have been even more brutal, to be fair. But I think, sadly, whilst it was only 1-0 at that point, I think that absolutely broke everyone's hearts. And I'm not going to call out Fulham Football Club players for not recovering from that. Quite honestly, Marco said, that the second half performance was not good enough and below what he expected, but that's kind of expecting a lot of players to actually push through having not only had a leading position chalked off, and a really great moment for a young kid that everyone would have totally riffed off, but then to have been gut punched with that goal just before halftime, when clearly play should have stopped. It's pretty crazy stuff. So we
I'm
go
sorry, the
into.
play stopped immediately after.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you. Mission accomplished. But again, you know, I'm actually now completely confused as to whether the guy is truly that incompetent, or whether he's totally biased, or whether he's just lost control of the game. Maybe his head was gone as well, realizing the enormity of what he'd actually presided over by not seizing the moment with the Josh King incident to actually overrule VAR. Maybe his head was gone as well.
I'm so angry that it's actually made me tired. And I'm just like, this is how Skibby just feels all the time. And I'm just kind of was like, I finally understand it. It's like, it's just created a glaze over. And like, I'll be so real. Like, for the past 3 minutes, I haven't really been listening because I've just been stewing a little bit here. And there was a conversation happening, but I wasn't part of it. Like, I've just been sitting here.
Sadly, I'm probably having this effect on 1,000 people right now, which is a bit depressing to think about. But never mind, you know.
I quite like the idea that 1,000 people are listening. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's brought me back a little bit.
Yeah, well, hyperbole, whatever. Yeah. It's probably about 40, but that's okay. We love you all. Thanks for joining.
Stop it. No, it's actually 2,000.
So we go into halftime. I can only imagine the atmosphere in that dressing room. You know, and I guess Silva would have tried to use that, as all good managers should, to actually focus players and actually get the best out of them. But I think the balloon was completely deflated at that point, and I think it was difficult for us to come back. Yeah, look, I think Chelsea definitely seemed to grow into the game, but not surprising that you know, they were a goal up. They probably felt like things were going their way, and it's you know, it's a difficult thing. I think someone commented on the fact that, you know, in fact, it was Steve Reynolds sent me a little video overnight. Shout out to Steve, who's always a great contributor to this podcast when we go live in the Discord and many other little venues which will go unmentioned. Steve sent me a little post by Jeremy Vines, who's a Radio 2 broadcaster, I think, and journalist, who's a Chelsea fan, happened to be at the game, and he actually was kind of sending out a very nice message to everyone, saying that that's not how he liked to win a game, and you know, everyone was cheering, sitting around him when that goal was chalked off, and he you know, didn't like to see it happening. But anyway, second half, do we want to talk about anything other than the penalty shout that went against us? I don't want to talk about any of the football.
I think the one other thing I did want to talk about is, and Sam, feel free to hop in on this too. I love our record from substitutes scoring goals. I think it's borderline comedy at a certain point, but it also shows the effectiveness of how Marco uses substitutions. That being said, I was so underwhelmed with our options coming off. King was running the show. I didn't know why we pulled him off. Muniz was absolutely on one, in spite of the fact that he really wasn't getting a ton of service. He was throwing himself about. I didn't love the Jimenez change. I thought Iwobi looked tired, and I didn't understand how it took us that long to pull Adama on. I'm saying all of this to preface and maybe again segue us off the match and into the end of the window. We did not have the legs that we needed to bring on to really change a game like that. That was a game where, had Adama been playing like old Adama, and being able to just run through people and cause some chaos. And he had a couple great crosses in there. That changes a match. If we have a guy who can put his foot on the ball, control the game down the middle, and freshen up our midfield, that's something. If we had a talismanic winger that we either paid $27 million for last year or potentially are about to pay $42 million for this season, that would have potentially changed the game. And that was the thing that I kept noticing was we were essentially chucking on what we had. And going back to my original thing, I almost think there was a little bit of Marco, telling leadership like, hey, I'm doing what I can. I am spinning magic as much as I can, but this is where we need reinforcements. This is where we need reinvigoration. Somebody who could come off the bench, take the game in a moment and do something. And we were crying out for it, and it really hurt.
I think as well.
Go, Sam.
Just let me. I think as well, like I can't actually blame any of our current players.
Not at all.
For not essentially, because look, it's as simple as this. We know what they do. Everybody knows what they do. So it's not even like a criticism to be like, Adama's coming on. Adama's not really got that much to prove. He's just kind of like here now. And it's also as well, I think enough teams kind of like know when we're kind of like changing parts, exactly what that's going to bring on. And it's the only person who's kind of like actually really kind of like asserting himself at the moment is Josh King. Credit to why he's actually doing so well. But you're 100% right. Like there is no one at the moment that can truly come off the bench with intensity, with some like gusto. Like, I mean, like a couple of years back, Solomon just used to come on and it was just such like a shot of adrenaline because nobody knew what this kid was going to do. Same with Reece Nelson last year as well. We've got nobody like
Take
that.
It back further. Neeskens Cabano did this too.
Yeah. Like we just need like somebody who can actually and I know you could, there's probably somebody out there who could very irritatingly be like, well, we have these great options. You need fresh.
We have Willian coming back.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like for a third, like I mean, he's basically Fleetwood Mac if he comes back again. Like
I'm just saying again, you don't put any of this on the players, and I think you're totally right about that, Sam. But at the end of the day, like it almost highlights the thing that we have all been saying, and I'm really, really, really hesitant to say anything about the cons because candidly, there are so much worse ownership out there.
I'll say shit about the cons.
It could be so much worse. But the fact that Shahid Khan is the single richest individual who owns a club in the Premier League right now. Like all the people above him are either groups or nation states. And we are this was a last chance begging him. And who knows if he was watching the game? Who knows if Tony was even looking up at the moment when he was partaking in other activities. This was us crying out to have transfers come in. And it looks like we've woken up, but at what cost?
So in the exact same way that you guys had great quotes before, I can offer one now. And I actually always tell it to like my friends who are actually thinking about psychology and that mental health is important, guys, do it. Because you said before, they're not the worst. There's worse. There's always going to be worse. The example I always give is if you go to the hospital with a broken arm and somebody comes in with 2 broken legs and then somebody comes in a full body cast, you've still got a broken arm. There is still a problem. And like other people having worse things doesn't negate the fact that you have a problem that you need to fix. And that's the overlying thing.
The only thing I'll say on that, and look, like I don't have a problem saying bad things about the cons. I'm not going to stand for them. But at the same time, excluding this window, and I felt this every single season, that the business comes in too late. They're not paying attention. They're over-reliant on Silva. One of the things that I always think about, though, is when you look back at our last couple windows, and again, this is also a testament to Silva, that at the end of the day, have we had a bad window in the last 4 years? Like overall, like I know January's left something to be desired, especially last season. Look at the players we've brought in. They're always good. I struggle to think of players who were absolutely terrible. Even the Levin Kurzawas, like who score in cup games, like they're still quality players. It's just we wait far too long.
Well,
I actually think that's got
on.
more to do with Silva, though. I think Silva's
It's
actually
possible.
just great. Yeah. So
my 2 cents on the Cards. I've been pretty vocal about my frustrations with them. Shahid Khan seems like a lovely man. Seems like a guy who'd probably break your neck down a dark alley as well if you said the wrong thing. But he's amassed he's amassed a lot of money, so he just cannot be stupid. I feel sorry for him that he's actually got a son who he feels he has to who happens to express an interest in sports, and so he feels he has to put him into roles that I cannot be convinced he actually truly understands, or he's actually well suited to. And then you've also got, and they don't pay enough attention. Fulham doesn't seem to be enough of a focus for them. I can't be convinced of anything else. And then you've got a guy like Ali Mack installed. He's beige, boring little accountant, stealing a living, just kind of doing the bidding of the way that the Khans seem to run the club. I acknowledge they've dropped a lot of money, but you cannot convince me that the way in which we go about buying and selling players, or particularly buying them, is smart. Again, I don't even think it's frustrating. It's just incompetent to actually always be thinking that you can do well by bottom feeding in the last 24 hours. It's just, it costs us points. It costs Marco preparation and setup time, and it's not a good way of doing it. If you were a poor boy and didn't have the money, I get it, but you're not. You're just not. So if that means we single thread through every decision having to go across Tony's desk, and Tony's got his head elsewhere, and he isn't in London or on the, involved enough in the activities of the transfer windows, well, that's a fault in the system and the way we're set up as well. So I see a lot of problems in it. It's not only about money; it's about how we go about our business, and it's pretty inefficient.
I couldn't agree more. I will say, and again, and this is almost to your point here, if I almost wish Khan would essentially just say, hey, everything just runs through Silva minus a budget, right? You have a budget of 50, 100 million. Silva, do whatever you want with it, but this has to go through you, because at the end of the day, they trust him enough to ask him what players that he wants. They trust him enough to go through and say, hey, you can set up the team as you like. Again, and I can't believe I'm the person coming in and crediting the Khans, but I remember when Marco Silva was brought in and I said, what the hell are we doing? We were talking about, Ishmael as a different option or somebody like that. They've brought in a really good manager. We've put money behind him. It's just been bad timing. And it almost feels like, hey, yeah, you trust your son too much. Put your trust in Marco. Bring on a lead negotiator if you want. I'm happy to apply for that job. But at the end of the day, like, we clearly have the right pieces. It just kind of feels like they're in the wrong places.
I also think, I could be completely wrong on this, but I also think that Tony Khan comes in for a lot of abuse because he's kind of the face of the money. But I think the sniveling little shit in the background is Ali Mack. He's working a bonus, and actually, Tony Khan takes a lot of the heat, I think, because he kind of he looks like someone you'd want to ridicule, and I think Ali Mack just is the guy in the background is actually implementing the policy down to a T, making his bonus and just keeping things and nicely balanced for Uncle Shahid. That's the way I think it works.
I truly don't really think anyone's better or worse than the other. They all irritate me. I'm all pretty sick of them, and like we should probably like start putting a bow on it, because we've just been hitting our audience with just whinging, which I've really enjoyed, to be fair. But like, there's only so much.
Hey, I said that's what you're going to get tonight, and if you're still here,
true.
you clearly love it.
You got what you paid for. You got what you paid for.
Anyway, okay. Well, Sam, if you say we've got to put a bow on it, geez, we really do need to put a bow on it. Okay, we've officially wrapped that now. The clapperboard has come down. We're not going to talk about that anymore, and we are in football parlance moving on, and away we go to next week. Let's talk about where we are in the transfer windows. We've got 24 hours left. Yep, a little bit under 24 hours. And from the last I followed, I believe that there are very strong rumors that the Kevin deal with Shakhtar is all but done. Apparently, we haven't actually arranged terms with the player, which seems a bit arse about. But apparently Fulham and the club have actually agreed terms, 42 million euros, and apparently a 25%, what's it called? Sell-on clause, which seems damn hefty. And I know that's one of the questions that's been raised in the Discord as well. And the other one that I believe is rumored to be close is Chukwueze from Milan, I believe. Is that right?
Yep. And actually, they just announced Yunus Musa is out on loan. So I'm actually really curious if that means Chukwueze is going to follow shortly after.
Yep. Okay. As I said earlier, I don't believe that we've heard any firm rumors about any midfielders, but who knows? Who knows what might happen? And I think the line's gone dead in terms of strikers as well, right?
I mean, Marco even acknowledged that we weren't going to have time to bring the striker. I think we've heard a little bit of rumblings about Hayden Hackney potentially, which honestly would be another one I would love to see in, a younger guy who can essentially be an apprentice and potentially come off the bench and have, a little bit of gumption about him. It almost reminds me of, was it Adam Wharton a few years ago when he came from the Championship into Crystal Palace? Like, I'd love to see that kind of thing blended into the team.
That's unless you guys know any more information, and I'll put a shout out to the crew following along on the live. If whilst we've been podding, if anything else is actually broken, please let us know in terms of transfer confirmation or any rumors that are firming up. Please let us know and we'll shout that out, guys. But in the I think we probably need to jump to the questions, as we've been going for an hour and 15. I don't really care.
I mean, we've hit on a lot of questions here.
Have we? Okay.
We've hit on a lot of them. I will throw in a couple in here, just for a little bit of fun.
Please do.
So first and foremost, before we move on from it completely, for Carlino, we have to ask, and I guess I'll take the bullet on this one. Who is going to be the first on the pod to say "fuck Rob Jones"? I think I just won. So I think that's the first one. I can't believe we got through that without calling him out directly. I'm going to paraphrase one of Dave's questions or change it a little bit, which is, will Kevin and Rodrigo become best friends? I'm going to ask, how long does it take Rodrigo to take Kevin fishing?
Ooh, that's a good question. He's a pretty friendly boy. I'm going to say like 3 days.
I feel happy. If this happens, I feel very happy for Muniz that he's got, a young and new Brazilian friend, because I think it was going to be difficult for him if the whole Samba Whites thing had been disbanded. Obviously William's gone. But who knows? There's 24 hours. He may be back.
Mm.
And Andreas, as we mentioned earlier, is now confirmed as leaving to Palmeiras. So that leaves Muniz a little isolated, and so I'm very, very happy that Kevin, quite apart from the fact that he looks like he's got stupendous and very, very silky Brazilian Latin skills, I think it's great that Muniz has got another buddy.
All I think is Brazilian friend.
I just think about what's the chant going to be for Kevin. And one of the
Well,
questions
you've seen there's a few people putting some things forward in both the
I think
Discord
Skibby
and
had
also
a
on
great one that I saw earlier that I wish I could remember. That was a really great one. The
I
other
can dig
question
it
that
out
was
for
out
if you
there
like.
is the number that he's going to wear. We're seeing rumors that he'll wear 37. We're seeing rumors that he'll wear 18 or 19. Do we need to give 18 a little bit of room to breathe with Andreas leaving? Solomon was 19, or he was 11 actually. So I'm really curious where he comes in there. Although I did see Barton did say in the chat that no, we're saving 37 for Kobe Manu.
I'd love. Do you know what I've really been missing lately? I've been really missing 25. I really want just like a fresh attacker to take 25 and bring back the glory days of Bobby Zamora, because I've just been missing that. It's been I can't even remember the last time we actually had a 25. Oh, it was what's his face? Josh Onuma. Josh Onuma was the last 25 that we've had, and that was ages ago. Bring back 25.
Thank you, Rain Man.
Thanks.
I love Diego in the comments saying 73.
73. Yeah.
Just something random out there. I really like those. I guess I'll post it to both of you. Since there aren't a ton of rumors out there, we have 24 hours left in the window. What does success look like for you in the last 24 hours?
Oh God. Okay, success for me. Winger, center midfielder. I actually probably even want like I probably want 2 central midfielders. I'm really stretching it here, but I want 2 central midfielders and a winger. And you know what? Maybe if they could swing me any kind of like striker that's like half decent, would I take a loan? I'm not sure if I would take a loan, but if we could get like a striker, that would also be good as well. Yeah, that'd be me.
Elton?
Begrudgingly, because I always I hate our transfer windows. I hate that we do business so late. I hate that we're bottom feeders. It's just frustrates the hell out of me. However, we sign Kevin, we sign Chukwueze, we sign someone absolutely out of left field, but a brilliant and exciting Latin style central mid number 8, but highly attacking number 8. And we sign a young striker. I don't need a Premier League proven striker. I'm very happy with Muniz. And I'm okay with Raul, provided Muniz is more often than not chosen to be the man and he's given a real run. I would love a young tearaway striker that has got nothing to lose and pushes those 2 guys really, really hard. That would be brilliant.
All I will say, I love the shouts on the Kevin and the Chukwueze. I love to see both those. I've been asking for Chukwueze since we were rumored with him in January. We mentioned it before. I'd love a Hayden Hackney. I think that would be phenomenal to bring in. I go back and forth on the striker, if I'm being really honest. And I think about Callum Osmond, and I think about him leaving. And if we're not going to be in for somebody like Taremi, who was gone for 2.5 million, why aren't we just bringing up the kid from the academy who does the same thing? Yeah. Why don't we give somebody a shot that way? I know it's not the same level of, sexiness as bringing in a new name, but I would love to see that. if we bring in the two wingers and we bring in a Hackney, I can't see why we can't move somebody like Iwobi into the 8, because candidly, I'm kind of overseeing him on the wing to a degree. He plays great with Robinson, but generally he gets lost in games occasionally. And so I would almost be interested in seeing him used in that Swiss Army knife role a bit more. I think those are the things that I'm thinking about as we kind of run out the time on the window is, can we get the two wingers that we've been linked to? Can we get a center mid and then provide a path for either Iwobi to go into the 8 because we have the winger coverage and keep Adama and Harry cycling through the team? Or does this provide an opportunity for younger players? And I really hope it does. Somebody like Ridgen to break in, somebody like, an academy striker to break through, even as a third string striker that we can bring in, because at some point in the season, we're going to have the opportunity to bed them in. And I would love to see that pipeline and figure out who is the next Josh King, who is the next Ryan Sessegnon.
I completely agree.
And to add to that, again, to be grateful for what we have, frankly, Josh King is a new signing. You know, he's turning up and doing what he's doing is equivalent to a new signing, because even though I thought he started to prove himself last year, there was no certainty in my head that Marco Silva was going to back him. It didn't look like he was going to back him. And maybe, who knows how the conversations went down, and maybe he got sort of he got himself into a position where he said, I want to leave unless you're going to give me a go. So Marco gives him one go, and he pulls a rabbit out of the hat in pre-season. Marco goes, geez, actually, this is pretty good. And who knows how that actually developed. It's because you would have thought that ESR was the guy who really had that shirt nailed down in Marco's head. And I still believe that Josh King's appearance bursting onto the stage is actually a really, really good thing for ESR. I think it's going to be good for him. Any more questions there, Mike?
I think those were the big ones that we had in there. A lot of chatter about specifically the window and what we're looking to do in the window. I guess the one other thing we can talk about with Mark from the pod, he references this a little bit. How do we feel about Marcel Gatto being probably sold?
He hasn't done enough for me to have a deep investment. If you can make a decent return on it, because it'd pretty much just be all profit, wouldn't it? More or less.
It would be pure profit.
Yeah.
I think to circle back to your comments about if Gatto was a striker, a straight up striker, I think it would be a different situation. That he competes to areas where we do seem to be keen on signing, pretty proven players. It makes it difficult for Gatto for where he is in his career. Whereas I think, to your point, a striker in our midst, a young guy who's looking exciting, you'd think, given the cost of proven Premier League or elite level strikers is so high, Fulham's never going to be prepared to pay that sort of money. Why wouldn't you chance your arm and give a young kid a chance to prove himself? Even if you just give him a couple of cup games here and there, see what he does, because he just might come off.
I agree, but at the same time, and whatever we think about, the current system of PSR, this idea that you can sell a player for, I think I've seen the rumored fee around $7 million of pure profit. That's a lot for us because there's a big multiple on that one. That's essentially, I think it's like a $20 million sale or 20 million euro sale. That's real money that we could be spending on a real player who could be ready now. And I think one of the things we don't talk about enough with the academy prospects, we've talked about how they leave, but candidly, as much as I hate to give Chelsea any credit, the ability to sell on their players, like selling Mason Mount, who were homegrown, affords them the ability to sign all these crazy players. Yep. It's not a failure if we sell our players. It really isn't. Especially if we're making pure profit, especially if we can negotiate things like Shakhtar are with, sell-on clause, or like what City does with buyback clauses. I don't see why this is a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Mm.
Anything else, Mike, or done with questions?
Those were the questions in the chat. We appreciate all the questions. I think we're seeing a bunch of questions about how do we actually pronounce Kevin's name? Are we doing it correctly? I see Eddie Middlebrook saying that are we sure that it's not Kevin, which is very possible. I think that would work well with your accents. But yeah, I think that's a real question to be asked. Is we're gonna get a lot of introduction to Kevin.
That's very funny. Okay, guys, look, let's wrap it up there. One funny thing I have to mention is that I actually was wearing a grey T-shirt before the time came to pod, and I thought, nah, football is dead. I'm going to wear black, and it's really hilarious that you guys have turned up in black as well. It's actually pretty funny.
I mean,
guys,
I'm always in black. It's a pretty safe bet, but
thank you for joining me. And I'm sorry for anyone who's followed along, anyone who's downloaded this and listened. If this is just bedded in your depression post yesterday, but I think it's important not only to go into some detail on what was really a very, very gut-wrenching affair yesterday, but also I think I think we've got the right people around the table here tonight, this afternoon, and this morning to just ramble and unleash a little bit on what we think and what perhaps the greater community thinks about the state of officiating and refereeing and VAR in the Premier League. And hopefully we've done it justice. No doubt next week and the week after, or not next week, but the week after, and for a few weeks to come, they'll break our hearts again, and we'll scratch our heads and never fully understand or really understand what the hell VAR is trying to achieve. Is there any chance that the game will change? Is there any chance that football will change, that we'll grow a pair and actually give a referee the power to do things properly and raise the game to a decent standard? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But nevertheless, we'll still be here. We'll still be back. We'll still be following Fulham, and for our sins, we'll continue to do this podcast, no doubt. Just before we go, just to mention that the Discord, if you don't know about it, it's our channel where people chat about Fulham transfers, receive some fantastic feeds and information from Fulham fan news, and from Cottage Tactico and a number of other sources. Really great place to be, guys. Unlike the cesspit that is Twitter or X, it's a friendly place where people genuinely have good things to say. So I really, really recommend you check it out and give it a chance. It's free. All you need to do is find a website, go on a Discord and sign up. We've just cranked over the 500 mark, which is not exactly stellar, but it's a decent community and there's a lot of things happening there. So I highly recommend it. But I think that's all we have. Thank you, everyone, for joining along today. Thanks for everyone for your comments on the live stream. Thanks for listening. If you downloaded this podcast at an hour and 28 minutes, that's a great effort if you're still here with us, and I do appreciate it. I've been Elton. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Mike. And
Thank you.
Who wants to take it away with the Come On You Whites? Someone.
Oh no, I'm giving that to Mike. I've done 2 already. Like
you Whites.